Designer family, welcome back to another episode in this series. Today, we're going to talk all about creating cohesive color palettes. This is going to be a game changer for your design, your creative pursuits. So, I hope you enjoy, and let's get right into it.
I got tell my bestie, someone call my bestie, say I found my bestie, link up make the check bleed, you know that I'm smoking dope, I'll be hot till next week, no I had to let her go, cause she can't arrest me. Tell her what's up, tell her what's up, tell her it's on, tell her it's on, tell her what's up, tell her what's up, tell her it's on, tell her it's on, tell her what's up, tell her what's up, tell her it's on, tell her it's on, tell her what's up, tell her what's up, tell her it's on.
What is up, YouTube family? Designer Malcolm here, and today I want to introduce you to a game-changing AI toolkit that I use every single day in my businesses. It's my secret weapon to staying ahead in a competitive marketplace. You see, we are living in the age of AI, and here's the truth. If you're not leveraging this incredible technology in your design studio, creative freelance business, or agency, you're setting yourself up to fall behind. Slow businesses lose, period. As a creative entrepreneur, I get it. I've been there, juggling a dozen different tools just to keep my business running. I had Notion for a knowledge base, DocuSign for invoicing, Calendly for scheduling, Webflow for websites, ClickUp for project management, School for my community, Slack for my team communication, and HubSpot for my CRM. The list was endless, and the chaos was real. This kind of tech bloat is a serious problem in our industry, and honestly, it's unnecessary. When your workflow is scattered across multiple tools, your efficiency tanks, and running your business feels like trying to sprint through a swamp. That's why I made the switch. You see, Lancer OS is an all-in-one AI-powered toolkit built specifically for design studios, creative entrepreneurs, freelancers, and agencies. With Lancer OS, you can seamlessly automate client acquisition, streamline project management, improve client communication, send invoices, and honestly, there's so much more, all from one powerful platform. What's the goal? Well, the goal is to help 10,000 businesses like yours eliminate tech bloat, cut costs, and operate like a well-oiled machine. If you're serious about taking your business into the AI age and staying ahead of the curve, now is the time to act. As a part of my design family, and I love you guys, you're getting exclusive access to a 30-day free trial of Lancer OS. Don't wait until you're left behind. Join the 10,000 army already transforming their business today with Lancer OS. So let's build something incredible together, and let's change the industry. All right, welcome to this lecture about creating cohesive color palettes. If you're new to the channel, I'm Designer Malcolm, and before I get started, please go ahead and show your support. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, because I will be dropping these lecture videos 3 times a week, so there's plenty of content for the person who's interested in becoming a better designer in their professional or personal career. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most exciting and essential aspects of design, and that's color, right? If we're not designing in color, then it's black and white. Color is the essence of any design. When you look at your favorite Monet painting, or when you study some of the pop art, even when you study some of the classical Baroquean art, you just notice that color really brings things to life. Now, that's not to say that there is merit in black and white. I mean, there's great graphite art, people who draw with just straight graphite pencil, but even at its core, you see the variations in tones and tints, and that's in its own self, its color. So I'm excited about this lesson, and we're going to talk about how you can make really, really knockout killer color palettes. So We're going to talk about why is a cohesive color palette important. We're going to talk about understanding the color wheel, choosing a base color, add supporting colors, tools for creating palettes, testing your palette, and some pro tips for you on creating some cohesive color palettes. So, why is a cohesive color palette important? Now, if you didn't already view the episode on color theory, I highly recommend you check that out after this lecture. But you notice the relationships of color within the color wheel. And so, cohesion is essential, right? Now, that's not to say that you can't have colors that clash or not. It just depends on what you're going for, but in its essence, at a fundamental core, you really want to strike remember that word, balance within your color. A cohesive color palette, it creates harmony in your design. It makes it visually appealing and memorable. It's beautiful, right? Think about a lot of things in your life where you saw some harmony, right? Perhaps when you dress, or people who like to get dressed and they wear the same color hat with the same color shoes and the same color pants and shirt. There's an element of harmony there, right? It's safe, it's pleasing, and it can look downright visually appealing, right? And it's memorable. I remember some people that I know who wear and I'm referencing fashion a lot because you're going to see throughout my journey as a designer, I'm going to elevate and I'm going to evolve into more of a fashion centric content creator. But as of now, I'm kind of covering everything. So excuse the references if it's about fashion, but that is my medium. And so one thing you notice in fashion is when you see people who really, really have a striking harmonic appearance, it's very memorable, right? It helps convey your message clearly. It reinforces your brand identity, and most importantly, it creates an emotional connection with your audience. Inconsistent or clashing colors, on the other hand, they can distract and confuse the viewer. You always want balance. If you distract and if you confuse the viewer, unless that's your intent, right? If that is your intention, by all means. But a lot of the times what you're looking for or what you're striving for is something that has a harmony to it. And if you don't achieve a cohesive a color palette, it can really distract the user from really understanding your overall vision and your display of work. All right, little hiccup there, but it's all good. This is live, well, unedited, so there will be some stumbles, some fumbles, but I'm here to give it to you guys raw, not perfect. And as a matter of fact, if you're rocking with me and you support me, I appreciate you because I don't have the cool effects right now and the transitions. I'm just going to give you straight info that you can apply and become a better designer. So I really think that if you like authenticity, this channel is for you. And I want to thank you guys again for watching. So back to the main topic at hand. And our next thing we're going to talk about is understand the color wheel. You see, the color wheel is your starting point. It helps you understand how colors relate to one another. Like I mentioned before, it's okay if you have one of these physical color wheels on your person, because you want to understand it. You want to understand the relationships that colors have with one another. And as you become better, and even as you progress, you're going to have you're training your eye. That's essentially what you're doing. You're training your eye to find that harmony, to find those ideal relationships between colors. Primary colors, like you should know these already, it's red, blue, and yellow. They're the building blocks. So I remember when I first went to art school, I had no clue. I knew nothing about color. And I went to the art store, shout out to Blix, and I thought that I needed to get every single paint of acrylic. This is for my color theory class. And lo and behold, all you really need was red, blue, and yellow. And the cool thing with that is you can get any color on the color wheel with just those three. And obviously, you want to get you some white and black. Those those help with the tint, tones, and shades. Um, as well as you have your secondary colors. These come from your primary colors. You have orange, green, and purple, and they're made by mixing the primary colors. Then you have your tertiary colors, and these are the combinations in between, like red, orange, blue, green, and so forth. So you want to use this wheel to explore relationships between colors and choose combinations that work well together. If you're new to color, that is something I would recommend is you want to choose colors that work well together. And your eye will just know. It's an innate feeling we all have. You don't have to be Van Gogh or any Basquiat. You don't have to be anyone that's big or famous to understand relationships in color. Your brain will know, you're gonna have an intuition, and you're gonna see something, and if it clashes, you'll just feel it. You'll know, like, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that does work. So don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. So choosing a base color. So when choosing a base color, you want to start by picking your base color, and this is the dominant color in your palette. It could be anything, right? It could be anything that your little heart can imagine, right? But you want to start with choosing your base, your foundation. Um, and then what this will do is this will set the overall tone of your palette, right? So let's say you want to go for red, that's for energy, and passion. If you're going to go for blue, that's going to set the tone for calmness and trust. If you're going to go with a green color, that's for growth and freshness, right? The base color anchors. It really does anchor, and it brings everything to a central focus of your design. So you want to choose one that resonates with your project's goal. I recall having projects where we were supposed to only do an entire life drawing painting, or personal portrait, right? A self portrait, there we go, in one color. But what's beautiful of that is you could take that one color and you can get hundreds of colors out of it. So let's say you start with blue, you can get warm blues, cool blues, you can get these shaded blues. And so, you know, think about your project's goals, and then start with that. Start with the goal. Start with what you're trying to communicate, and then select your base color, and then you want to build from there. Add supporting colors. So next, you want to choose your supporting colors. So these are your accents, backgrounds or secondary elements in your design, and that's where these supporting colors are going to come into play. You want to use analogous colors for a harmonious look. Colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. You also want to think and approach it with some complementary colors for contrast. So colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. You want to make sure that your supporting colors enhance, not overpower your base color. So you have the base at the bottom, and then you have your little accent marks. And some of those accents may be analogous, others may be complementary, but they're just a touch, right? They're there to aid the base color in your design, and you want to keep that in mind. It is important to include some neutral colors. These are the unsung heroes of your palette, and these are your blacks, your grays, or beige tones, and they can balance bold colors. Right? When you have a neutral, what is it? Think about the word neutral. It neutralizes, some of those boisterous colors, those loud colors, or some of those more muted colors. The neutrals really, 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 really bring a balance to that. So, with white, black, and gray, or your beige tones can balance both colors, and it can provide visual rest, right? Think about something that's just all red, all red, all red, right? That could be a little too intense. But let's say you take some of that red and you throw a little bit of beige in there, right? Or maybe you shade it and tint it with some black. Now you have this spectrum of red, right? You have some really, really, really um, bright, bold reds, and you have some really, really dark, earthy reds. Now, you can see this into play, and I would say very, very, very explicitly within painting. Painting, you really get a feel of color, and you really understand the importance of your base color with your secondary, analogous, and complementary colors, and then you really start to get a feel of how neutrals can bring some balance to your project. So even if you are a painter or not, and perhaps you're a digital artist, I would say really explore, get off of the computer, get a paintbrush, and just mess around, make it messy. But it's fun because you can understand the relationship between colors, especially when you start to incorporate your neutrals and your complementaries, like your analogous and your complementary colors on the color wheel. A touch of neutral goes a long way in making your palette feel polished. Well said. You know, it brings it all home. So that's something to really keep in mind. Make sure to never forget about including neutrals. Now, you don't have to include white, black, gray, and beige. You don't have to include all of these. You want to think about your project, and you want to think about what makes sense, and you want to go from there. So, tools for creating some color palettes. Here you go. You got Adobe Color. It's great for experimenting with harmony. Rules like triadic or split complementary. It's a great tool. Coolers is another one. I love that tool. You can generate these random palettes and then you can mess with them and sub colors in and out. And then Canva is another great free tool. So these are all free. Another tool that I think is just your own mind and your own visual judgment, and then red, green, and blue, acrylic or oil, and get to mixing, right? You're going to have red, green, and blue. You're going to want some white and some black. Um, and then just start mixing stuff. What's cool is, what I would say is, if you want to go the painting route, and like I said, this is my favorite because you can see it in real life. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make I would first start by making a color wheel. And when you make your color wheel, you also want to make a range of tints. So what that means is it's basically like a grayscale, and you'll use this grayscale to add to your main primary colors, believe it or not. So you'll have a scale of gray from like light all the way to like dark gray. And then what you can do is you can take those and add those to red, green, and blue, or the secondary colors, and start to really get some cool, some warms. You can start to throw some neutrals. You can create your own neutrals. So that's a cool thing. These all in all, there's no perfect tool. It all depends on your approach, what you're comfortable with. And at the end of the day, they make the process fun and intuitive. You don't want to be straining about color. Color's fun, right? You want something that's easy and that can make it fun and intuitive. So these are just a couple of examples. You probably know some that I don't even know about. And I just say use what's best. And I always recommend having a physical color wheel. It's just a great tool to have on your desk to look at and reference. Really awesome tool. So can't go wrong. So testing your palette. So you got your base color, right? You have your analogous and your complementary colors. So now what do, right? And it's important that you want to be refining your palette until it feels cohesive and versatile. That's essential. You make your palette once, you're not done. And I'm guilty of that. I like to do something once and be done. But what really brings your work to another level is that constant polishing, right? And I'm not saying strive for perfection, because you don't want perfectionism to slow you down. And us being creatives, us being artists, we're probably our biggest critic, right? But you're striving for some versatility and some cohesion within your palette. So what does that look like? Well, think about these things. Does it work in both light and dark modes? Is the text readable against your background colors, right? Is your subject or whatever you're making, is it visually, can you understand it? Can you see it clearly, right? And does it look consistent across digital and print formats? These are just some different ways to test your palette. And like I said, it's a constant refinement. It's never perfect on the first go, but as you refine and you tweak and you make edits, it gets better. So here are some pro tips for creating cohesive color palettes. Get out your pen and paper. I want you to throw these in a notebook or put these on your phone. This is some pro tips from your pro himself, and I hope this really helps you. So here are some quick tips for cohesive palettes. You want to limit your palette to 3 to 5 colors, and the reason why is if you start to get crazy, you start to have what's called visual clutter. And what does visual clutter disrupt? It disrupts balance, right? And then you want to vary some saturation and brightness to add depth. So think about this, right? Saturation is very rich in color, you know. It's almost on the darker side, right? Or it's really saturated, it's really strong. And then you want to add some brightness. You want to create a range, right? You want to vary this range. And what this will do is add depth to your work. Think about paintings that have your foreground and your background, right? And so when you look at these, you start to understand, like, okay, some of the stuff that's really in my face, it's saturated. It's like the foreground, right? Or maybe it's in the back. It's kind of back there, and I complement that with some brightness, right, to bring to the foreground. So you just want to play with these things. You want to vary saturation and brightness. You want to add depth to your work. It really makes it interesting. Next, you want to create a mood board. And this is by far one of the best tools that I have, or one of the best habits that I have, is always starting with the mood board. This is big in fashion design. Mood board is a great tool. Think of it as your command center, right, where you have all your ideas, where you have your colors and some textures and things that kind of help you navigate your project. And I like to think of a mood board as almost like a blueprint, an early blueprint. It's fantastic. And combine things on there: nature, art, some existing designs. So those are just a few pro tips. There's thousands of more pro tips, but I believe with these, it'll help you get going, and it's not too much to overwhelm you. So my final takeaway, here it is. Are you ready? Listen up. A cohesive color palette is more than just pretty colors. We all love pretty colors, right? But it's really about creating harmony, balance, and meaning in your design. With the right tools and techniques, you can build palettes that elevate your work and resonate with your audience. The goal is to resonate with your audience, your client. Doesn't matter, but that resonance is essential, right? Because all in all, if you're creating for something or someone else, that that resonance is important, right? So make sure that you follow these tips, follow these guidelines, and they will help you elevate your work. And like I said, thank you for joining this lecture. It's been an amazing time. It's Designer Malcolm. Next step is to like, subscribe, and follow. Your support means a lot. And look, if you are a design studio owner, a creative freelancer, you run a creative business, a photographer, it doesn't matter. Make sure you check out Lancer OS. It is the most essential AI toolkit to run your business on, from automating lead gens, managing your pipeline, managing your projects, and getting those reviews you have, constant referrals. This is a game changer. I use it for my business. Scan the QR code to get your 30-day free trial. It helps the channel. Thank you again. This is Designer Malcolm, and I'm signing out. Peace and love. God bless.